Black Budget. They're one of our home bands. We've been working with them since like the beginning of STMV. We love them. They've got a new single coming out, which we're really excited to talk to them about later.
Yeah, I love Black Budget. If you haven't had a chance to go out to any of their shows, you absolutely should. Pedro and his girlfriend Sandra are wonderful humans. They own Critical Zero. And they are really active in the community, and like I just love everything that they do. So I'm super stoked that they're gonna be here talking to Ashley. It should be a good time.
Yeah, they're beautiful humans. Their music's great.
Killer.
They're desert punk, technically, which is great. Just like really heavy. I can't say enough great things. We just
absolutely love Black Budget. They're a fucking great band. So yeah, super stoked. Sit the fuck down.
Sit the fuck down. Oh my god.
All right. All right. So our topic this week is why supporting small local artists, local venues, local bookers is good for the Toronto art and the Toronto economy. Some of my fucking points that I've got down here is just like random shit, but Toronto was known as a music city with a lively music scene. If we don't continue to support that, it will disappear, something that we have been seeing, which is why we fucking started Save Toronto Music in the first place. And then if we lose space for small local shows, we are cutting off opportunity for local artist development.
Mm-hmm. Now, how it kind of used to be back when, like, I was putting on shows in this company I had called Green Shades, what kept a lot of the venues afloat was you'd have, yeah, everybody does.
Okay, Mr. Green Shades.
Fuck off. Listen. Guys are dicks. Anyway, Canadian Music Week and North by Northeast used to be in 2 separate times of the year. Okay, so you'd have Canadian Music Week in like end of March or at the start of April, sometimes mid-April, and then you would have North by Northeast in June. Now, my experience from like talking to the former bartenders and stuff like that of Rancho and other venues was that, like, for the smaller ones, how people generally kind of go to concerts is fall is a busy time and spring is a busy time, but summer and the dead of winter are like the dead zones for bars. So you got like 2 to 3 months where in the summer people are going to cottages, or like they're going to Oshiega, or they're going to Montreal to check out the music festivals over there. You know what I mean?
More of a travel time.
Yeah, you know, in summer vacation, what are you gonna do? And then in the winter, it was just, it's fucking cold and frigid, and people don't want to go to shows in February. I get it.
And everybody's spending their money on like fucking holidays and shit.
Yeah, you know. But the beautiful thing about those venues and like those festivals at that time was that people would save up. They'd come into Toronto for like the week or the weekend. They get that festival pass, and they're hitting up all these different local venues. Bars get to put the fat on that they lost in those, like, in the frigid winter or the dead summer. And then they could continue doing business and operating, right, and paying their employees, and they could take hits on shows and stuff like that, which is why it's important is because there isn't a festival or something that's helping bars and venues make money through those low times, I feel. And it's kind of up to just people in the city to go out and support local bands and support local venues and bars to.
Well, I mean, just saying, we've got Bitch Fest in March, so.
Yeah, and there's
right.
There are also like local promoters and local bands out there, like, really pushing to do like their own small festival runs.
Yeah.
Like, look at Breaking the Borders. Like, they do a very similar thing where, and that was September, I believe.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, it's not necessarily a low time, but it's definitely a lower time than, like, I find that May, June, July, August are really when people say spring, summer is their best. That's that 4 month, May, June, July, and August. That's when the real travel time is, because a lot of people come home for September because kids are going to school.
Yeah.
And like those are low times. We're all getting like all of it, let alone all of us fucking getting old.
Right. But then also the good thing about September and October, why it's also really good, is because, well, September, kids are going to university and they're going to go out. And they're going to want to see shit. That's why the wicked thing about what I liked about the old College Street strip back in the day was it was right there by U of T. And like I'm in your 20s, and it's just like you just cross the other side of Spadina, and then you had right then and there you had the Dollar and the Alma combo meeting you like right there to say welcome to fucking go time. And then you had Rancho, and you had Crown and Tiger, and you had Fast Times Cafe if you wanted to check out like an acoustic
There
band.
were a lot more DIY spaces at that point too. There were
Dees
venues even in the
doing
back of sushi restaurants.
Dees, yeah, man, is Kaya. Fuck right. You know, you had the Cage. You also had, you know, Dees wasn't doing fucking club nights, so you actually had Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays, all that were like hot bills. Like I remember for North by Northeast, I saw Health at fucking Sneaky D's. Like, what the fuck? And then if you wanted to catch up a bigger one as it continued to go along college, you had the Mod Club, which is now Access.
Yeah.
So, like, another big thing is like, you were talking about, like, the smaller DIY companies, festivals, and you were talking about these festivals that were ridiculously funded. So, here's the thing is because there's no real, like, here's the actual problem, is because there's no real support for local music, realistically. DIY companies and smaller venues and artists, all that, don't have the financial funding to promote their shows properly.
Yeah, to get to a point where they're growing their audience enough to fill a stadium, you know?
Yeah, because, like, let's be real, North by North and Canadian Music Week, they're funded as fuck.
Yeah.
And they are able to put their shit on the radio. They're able to put their shit out there and poster and all that shit. You know how expensive paper is, dude?
Right, but I mean, but I mean, like, but you know what's also, like, kind of really fucked, if you want to talk about even the lack of funding that they got, was there was 2 festivals that twice a year would shut down fucking Young and Dundas.
Yeah.
Like, shut it down. Like, we're talking, one of them had a bill with Iggy Pop, and the other one was like, oh yeah, and then they, the following year, did a bill with fucking Beyonce at Young and Dundas.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And then now, it's like, I don't, you know, I'm not gonna lie, kind of going to North by now, you're kind of just like, what happened to you, man? And
I mean, they are losing their funding, don't get me wrong.
You know, but I mean, that's just to show, like, even the big ones, it's kind of leveled the playing field in that, like, there isn't much of a difference in quality between North by Northeast now than there is going to one of those local festivals, straight up.
Oh, 100%.
Our local bands are incredible, and all local scenes, really. All these people grew up on, like, the people that we spend $100 going to see in a stadium and never get within 700 feet of them because they're way the fuck over there. You go to the concert, but you're basically just looking at a screen.
Yeah.
Like, in just a group, in just like
and
a crowd
like
of
tiny
people.
little person.
Yeah. Like, it's not a great experience half the fucking time. Like,
I don't go to big stadium shows, just saying.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. I usually don't. Like, obviously, there's shows that I've been like, I will want to go to it, but they're just, again, like one of our last topics. They're Live Nation funded, so like, or they go through Live Nation, so everything is like fucking $500. Who the fuck can afford that? Anyways, but yeah, our local scene would thrive off of having local promoters work in multiple venues, and there are a lot of promoters out there who are working in multiple venues as well as us, and that does help keep that ecosystem going. But then we have these big headliners who come in and they are playing big shows on the same night as our locals, and people are going to those big shows instead of coming out to see their friends. And you know, and there's so many things within the community that I find just don't work.
I guess the question being is how do we get to the point from this point here where like our local shit is completely underfunded, completely forgotten about, completely just like disregard it, basically. Like, let's say what it is. It's disregard it.
Yeah.
How do we get from that point to the point where we're, you know, reaching people and bringing them out to the shows and bringing them to local and getting them to understand that these artists are just as fucking great as the ones that you're going to go see in the big stadiums.
By putting them on with more and more headliners. And the only way we can do that is, like we were saying before, is bringing out those headliners and asking them to, like, you know, do a week's run. And that's the thing, is that we don't necessarily work with big bands, but even like locals from like across the country here who are great. It's like, hey, come out, we can't offer you much, but we can give you a tour run, and you can do like 7 days, and like that'll add up. Is it going to be difficult? Yeah, but like you're also building your audience that way, and a lot of these locals appreciate that kind of stuff, and like doing that more and more, and just having like really a larger ecosystem, because like we have a great local scene here, and then they have a great local scene in Winnipeg, so like why are we not mixing it up, you know?
Crossing it.
Yeah, crossing it. And like that's really what would help is having our bands play on different lineups. Stop playing with just your friends. You know, like that's a big thing.
That's
like,
a huge thing.
It's a huge thing. It's like
More
stop
exposure.
playing with just your friends, because there's a ton of great bands out there, and there's a ton of insanely wonderful human beings out there in these bands, and you're not really giving them the opportunity or the space if all you're doing is booking the same 5 bands rotated around and around.
Yeah.
You know, you really have to I do an insane amount of research on bands all over the place.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out who I think would fit, and like where, like, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it fucking doesn't.
Like, another question is, like, obviously all those are great points, but like here's my other question is, all these kids that are going out to these fucking like emo nights and like dance nights and shit like that, okay, how do we reach those people?
I think with that, it kind of just, in my opinion,
that sits on the venues,
and this is something, well, I think it's a little, I think it's, I think it's a little bit on just standing outside and like a good old fashioned, you print
street teaming.
You print, you just, as you're a guy in a band, you stand outside of the fucking emo night when everyone's leaving, and you hand out some flyers. I think good old fashioned postering still is a very effective way to work. Like, say what you want. Dan Burke, you know, one of his shows is coming up, because he still will ride his bike around with a tape gun or a stapler, and if you see a poster for one of his shows, that's 100% chance he probably rode his bike around and he fucking taped that up himself, you know? So I think it's just a little more like, if you're in a band, and as a guy who's in a band, it's a little more like, hey guys, if you want to bring people out, you gotta put your foot to the fucking floor just a little more. That means going out, and even people listen to everything nowadays. Like, everybody always says that when you're like, what kind of music are you into? Well, I listen to a bit of everything. So if that's the case, well then check out other bands that you like that might not necessarily be punk rock, you know? That might not necessarily be metal. That might not necessarily be fucking hip hop or trap, you know? And just being like, yo, I like you for you and your vibe, and we're gonna book this night on the vibe. And then people are gonna show up, and then they're gonna be like, you know what? All the bands were different, and that was a fucking experience.
I guess it's like, how much of it really relies on the band, how much of it relies on the promoter, and how much of it really relies on the venue, if any.
It's
you know,
equal,
or
it honestly is such equal parts, because like for us as promoters, we've got to go to the venues, we've got to tell them like who we have, how many people we think are going to come in, you know,
you gotta book it.
We've got to book it, you know, and it's up to us to, as the promoters and the ones who are taking the venue, to be like, okay, put in bands that are gonna have polls, and that there's so many factors for us picking bands for lineups as well. You know, there's so many factors, and I'm not gonna talk about that stuff, but But yeah, and then it's also up to the bands to like go out, promote your shows, like tell your friends to come, promote, go out, talk to people, go to other shows, go to every show, like go to all the other local shows. Don't just go to the shows that you're playing.
Yeah, support each other, because if you're supporting each other, then they're going to come back out to your shows.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like a lot of the people who come out to shows are in other bands. And that's great, and I love that, but there's still such a large portion of our crowds that are like, the band's friends. And as much as I love that, it would be nice to have more and more of the community come out to local shows, meet people. That's what these local shows are for.
Yeah.
We're there to build up the bands, but we're also there to let everybody intermingle, and to support the venue, to support us, to support the bands, to support the art. It's up to the bands to promote, and it's up to the venues to be giving space to the local bands and taking those spaces away and being like, oh, well, we only do shows on Thursdays. It's like, well, how many people are really going to want to come out at Thursday at 7:00? Most adults work, and these are 19 plus venues. So what? And then there's such a limit on how many all ages venues we have. And let's not even get into that, because the second that we start getting more and more venues where they do let, 16, 17-year-olds in, those are the kids that are going to continue to come out to local shows. So we need to have more venues and we need to have more promoters booking the spaces too. Because there are a lot of venues who can get the certification to do all ages shows. It costs the promoters, but then you bring out great bands, the kids, they want to come out. These, 100%. Especially right now, like being a parent to 2 teenage girls and seeing how much angst has built up in that generation of kids because of COVID, and because of all of the things politically.
Right,
these kids are building it up, and the punk scene especially is like, especially for young kids, when they see a punk all ages show, they're like, yes, fuck yes.
But another big issue with all ages shows for venues is that venues aren't necessarily in the music industry, as they're just as much more heavily in the beer industry.
But that's
the issue, is that all ages people don't drink. It's an extra cost. All these people come in, that's great. They're buying pops and whatever else at half the price.
There is a pretty easy fix for that. Because here's the thing, you can go get yourself some non-alcoholic beer and fucking charge the exact same price. You can get fancy-ass fucking drinks and shit like that and sell it for the same price. You can sell virgin cocktails for the same price as a fucking normal cocktail and be like, yo, kid, here's a fucking virgin whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't
and feel fancy.
It doesn't have to be, and that's the thing, is that there are venues here where people assume that they're more like a bar, but like look at the Hard Luck, for instance. It's literally called the Hard Luck Bar, but it's still considered a venue.
That one is 100% a venue because they don't open.
Exactly. But then we have places like Bovine where, it heavily operates as a bar, but the bookers there have been working so incredibly hard to fill that space every day with artists, and utilize it as a venue. Luckily enough, their booker is Chuck, and he's great.
And another thing, if I could just touch on bands, one more thing as well. And this is something that, like, as a booker, always kind of, like, blew my mind, and as a guy in a band, who's a fucking nerd, mind you, they will attest to that. Is that, so currently I'm in a 3-piece.
Mm-hmm.
If each of us bring out 5 people, right? Just 5 people. There's 15 people in the room, right? And let's just say there's 2 other bands on the bill, and they're each in 3. Each band brings out 15 people.
Mm-hmm.
That's 45 bodies in the room.
Mm-hmm.
At a venue like Seascape, or like the Piston or whatever else, that's a nice full
Doc Ellis, yeah, it's a
Doc.
nice full
That's a
room.
nice Doc Ellis. You're 5 people with the bands in there. You're actually over max fucking capacity. Seriously, like you got to line up at the door at that spot.
Yeah.
You know, so like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, just you're telling me you don't have 5 friends. 5
Okay,
friends.
but here's the thing too: is like bigger picture. We can put the blame on the bands. We put the blame on the venues. We put the blame on the promoters. We put the blame on on all of that. But here's the thing: is again, it goes right back to the infrastructure of Toronto. Toronto does not support their local artists and their local music scene.
100%.
And if it did, they would have more grants, they'd have more funding, they'd have more access for these people to come in and access the money that they need to properly promote their shows, to properly structure their bands, to properly promote their bands to people.
Yeah, if they actually, if the city actually funded the promoters and the venues to be able to get headliners out and to be able to get and to fuel the system a little bit and give us all like equal share in something, then it would be helpful to everyone.
I'm even talking about like the smaller bands. If they had access to better grants and to better things, you know, like a band like yours can properly do like record their music, can properly like have the funding to advertise it to people,
go on tour, get tour vans, and pay for proper equipment.
And if we didn't have this overall like thought process of like, oh, we're just gonna go get drunk at a fucking dance hall, and the city funds that like crazy, the venues do too, because that's what brings out the money. But it's like, if we didn't focus so much on that, because that's what's bringing out the money right now, and actually focus and put our heads and our like bodies towards promoting art, actual fucking art.
Yeah, and also, and just to go on with the grant stuff, and by art, I will say this, that also means, like, for the grants, and I know SoCan is a thing, and Maple is a thing, but, like, as a guy in a band, I don't want to have to force myself to have to fucking write a bullshit song about Canada, or Toronto, in, like, a fucking positive scent, just so I can, like, you know, suck the government dick, just so I could get maybe $1,500.
The criteria,
which is like
for
a
those
day of
grants
recording,
is absolutely ridiculous. Because here's the thing: regardless of whether you make a fancy song about how much you love Canada, you're still a Canadian artist. You're still going to put bodies in those venues, which in turn brings money into those venues, which in turn brings money back to the government in some form. And not only does it bring money back to like local. Like, realistically, you're thinking about it. You're getting a kid to come in. You're buying a drink from a local bar that is owned by a local person that is going to put their money back into their local rents and their local stores. Like, this creates the economy.
And that type of criteria, like, alone makes it so difficult, like, for especially marginalized communities to access those grants. Because I'm sorry, but I don't know too many like people who aren't white who fucking want to sit back and suck the Canadian government's dick and be like, "I love you, Canada," and write a song.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying is that I think
it would make it so difficult for so many people. Like, what about people who are in bands here who came over here? You know, to leave these fucking other places, like, just to get away.
Well, I mean, and to be real, following Maple just to get kind of played here on Canadian radio is almost to an extent, like...
That's a joke.
But it's also like...
Listen to radio?
I don't think it's even necessary to a point where, if you really think about it, in the last, like, 20 years, from Ontario alone, you have artists who are pound for fucking pound dominating fucking world charts.
Yeah.
Straight up. I don't think Bieber fucking followed Maple. You know? I don't think Drake really gave a shit. I don't think The Weeknd really gave a shit. I don't think fucking, like, who else is killing it right now? Like, the Beaches. They're even on their way up, and they're fucking, like...
Keep hearing about the Beaches. I love the Beaches, but the amount of times I've heard about the Beaches lately...
Well, they just played in Hamilton tonight.
So that's such a valid point, because, like, I hear about them all the fucking time.
But, You know, like, do you need Maple? Like, do we need that? Anyway, that's another conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic. So, yeah.
So, okay, what exactly is the solution here? Because here's the thing, is yes, we can talk about this, that, and the next thing, and how to bring people out to your specific shows, and that's all great information for them. But in
Well, I think
a whole ecosystem, how do we build that ecosystem to be just as vibrant and lucrative, so that places like the government and like big companies pay actual attention to this lucrative ecosystem that we used to have that we no longer have?
Well, again, like I was saying, that falls on, that's like where my point was, is that it really falls on all of us, you know, as promoters, as venue owners, as bands, to all kind of work together to, you know, promote our shows, to give space to people, to book the lineups, to not oversaturate, to, you know, to really making sure that people, like, it's up to us. We have to do it. We can't just expect them to start.
But I think
you know, it falls on all of us. Like
100%. I guess my question is, and this is where I'm like leaning towards, all right, is if you were to walk up to like fucking Nancy over there, who's never been to a local show, who doesn't have any friends that are local bands, and you were like, I'm gonna convince this bitch to come and support the music scene, how would you fucking do it?
Well, I feel like that falls on us as promoters to promote the bands, but it also falls on the bands to get out there and talk to people. And like Antony was saying, it's really street teaming, getting out there and handing out your flyers and playing your music and going, like, even bands who go out into Christie Pits and they play their music. There are people who would never go to their shows who are walking by, who see those bands playing in the fucking park, and they're like, yo, dope, I'm going to come to your show because I like your music. And they might not, and then they go. And that's really like it, going out, us as promoters, going out, handing out flyers, the venues, constant, like we have endless resources with the internet, you know? So I understand, like, venue owners are fucking busy. They don't want to go out and street team, but you've got this fucking wonderful tool right on your phone, and you can post about it, and you can also put out advertisements. It's your venue. Mm-hmm. You know, don't just leave it up to the people renting the space. Take some initiative as a venue owner and try to get some of your people out there too. Use your pull to get people out to the shows. It falls on all of us.
Oh my God, don't post the show the night of.
Yeah, like, talk to people about what's going on in your venues. Everyone, you know, all, like, constantly. It really is up to everybody as a team, I think, to get out and reach people. And there's so many ways that we can go about doing that.
I think, yeah, and I think another thing as well, as like a guy in a band, what's going to make you want to go and talk about the show is just having a positive attitude. That also means in the band chat. That even means if you want to play shows, just, like, have a good attitude and be happy that you're playing a show and, like, that you're doing something. Because I think another thing that always sucks, and I think a lot of bands can relate to this, is, look, man, when you play a show, someone's going to have to bring a drum kit. Someone's going to have to bring a drum kit.
Yeah.
And as a guy in a band, the number one, like, atmospheric setting for how, I know how this night is going to go, is the discussion over the fucking drum kit.
Yeah.
Literally.
I do.
Literally. It's literally,
I agree with that.
That's it every single fucking time. So, you know, on the show that, like, you know, Man Crush is doing with, like, did with Neon Bloom and Lucid Smog Disorder, it was, we had Neon Bloom brought it up, you know, Lucid was just like, we got a shit kit, which is totally fair. Then we were like, we don't drive, so we need help. And then it all came together, and it was very easy, and it was peaceful, and it was a happy solution.
Yeah.
You know, so now I know that going into that night, every band has some sort of drive and want to input and investment within the night. They care, you know. So now what I'm going to want to do is be like, yeah, and you should stick around and support the other bands because they're not fucking assholes.
Yeah.
They're actually really nice and cool and share shit and it's supportive.
That's another thing I've come across a lot within certain spaces is dealing with bands who just don't treat you human. Like, the thing, we also all have to understand that as venue owners, bookers, promoters, bands, artists, we all are human beings, and just be kind.
Vibe. Just set a positive vibe. You're playing music here. What is
like this? There's nothing negative about the situation when you're like, I want to book a show, and then you book the bands and you have a crowd. What is negative about that situation so much that you have to be a dick?
And if you're doing it right,
like,
you're expressing yourself in your anger through your music.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, also give people leniency. Like, people are human beings. I've come across bands who, there was one of our shows where one of the first bands broke the drum kit, and it was the headliner's drum kit, and they solved the problem. They put duct tape over it, and it worked. They were able to. It was a great solution. They all worked together, but ultimately, things like that happen, and some people in this community and in other communities would have a situation like that happen and act like a fucking asshole about it. Yeah. Rather than just being like, let's come to a solution. I loved how they came to a solution.
All the bands did. It was actually pretty, you know what, when something like that happens, and it's like I had a band where, like, I had playing bass. One time my bass string broke while I was on stage at Handlebar. And we were playing with this band, Dead Messenger from Montreal. And literally, he was sitting right there, and he's like, I got you, can use mine. And he was going on after, and sure enough, I used his bass, and we played Montreal. And then the funny thing was, when I actually played Montreal, we were playing with them, because we set it up, and his guitar string broke. Oh. And then I was just like, here you go, man, I owe you one. Yeah. And now there's peace in the universe.
Dope.
Okay. So I think, sum everything up.
Conclusion,
here's the thing. We are not going to get fucking support at all. We need to support each other. Yep. We need to stop acting like everybody else acts and actually be there for each other. Stop blaming it on the venue. Stop blaming it on the promoter. Stop blaming it on the bands. Everybody needs to work as a fucking ecosystem, because no one's going to care until we start caring. No one's going to treat us like human beings until we start treating each other like human beings.
Yep.
And then on top of that, nobody's going to have a positive outlook and a positive attitude towards your show unless you put that out there into the universe. And put that out there into the universe not only for your band, but for everybody else too.
Pride.
Yeah.
Pride.
All right, dope.
Lovely.
December 14th, we've got Pot is Drugs, The Black Void, Death Waits with Chance Entertainer, Bambi Killed, Folk Punk, and Jesse Webb at Sneaky D's. December 15th, we've got The Creep Show, Brutal Youth, The Filthy Radicals with Lime Ricky and Wise Guys. December 16th, we've got Brandon's Birthday Bash with Queens and Kings, High Teens, Smoking Pet, and Lucid Smog Disorder.
Alright guys, so we're here with Black Budget, catching up. How have you guys been doing?
Great. We just are doing a lot of recording, rehearsing, playing live, and doing great.
Yeah, it's been extremely fun. Lots of shows, lots of time together, writing new stuff, experiencing different cities. It's been good.
Yeah. What's it like with having a new member in the band and like getting that worked in? What was that like?
Well, for me, it was definitely like
the new member.
Yeah, it's definitely a changing experience, because I'd only played small local bands like outside of Toronto, in like Mississauga and Brampton, things like that, and I always wanted to be in the scene doing bigger things, and I was a fan of Black Budget before already going to the shows, so it was
I remember
definitely
you coming out to the shows.
Yeah, it was definitely like world shattering, even for Black Budget. I mean, I was amazed that I was wanted for that. So no, it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, you're great at bass, and we've been gelling a lot. Like, it's super, like, it's like meant to be. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun, and we're like, you know, we're friends. Like
Yeah.
we play video games together. Like we just like hang out, and it's like we're, you know, it's like I've known you my entire
Yeah.
life kind of thing.
Yeah,
Same with Jack.
All three of us, just
Yeah.
it's like the perfect fit. It was meant to be kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like we've known each other our whole lives now. Like, and it's only been what, 6-7 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
February.
Yeah, because I remember the first show that you showed up like, oh, fucking, I was
Yeah,
like, nice
I
kid.
know.
It is also funny too that like when you get that connection in a band with somebody, and then you're like, you now have to play catch up on your friendship, because it's like you said, it's like you haven't, almost like I feel like I've known you my whole life, but I haven't. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah. You start to learn all the backstory and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then like how you came into your own way of like common interests is pretty cool too. I find.
Yeah.
So I'm not to pick on you, but like, what was the first time that you seen Black Budget, and like, what was that experience for you as a fan?
For the first time I saw Black Budget was, I think, at the Bovine, and it was 2022, I believe, for North by Northeast. Or I don't know if that was the first one, but I definitely saw that show. And I think I saw another Bovine one. I just don't remember which one was 1st. And then the other big one was the EP release show that you guys did at the house party. Those three for sure were like three of my all-time favorite Toronto shows that I'd been to. So, and I mean, I was already listening to your guys' stuff on Spotify, had it saved. I was already learning the stuff on guitar.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I'd sent Pedro one time, because we knew each other a little bit before I joined the band. We were mutual friends. So I sent him the one time a clip of me playing one of the songs. I was like, haha, look what I'm playing, kind of thing. And then now I'm like actually playing it. Is so surreal.
So was him sending those clips like a precursor to you asking?
I mean, like, I knew you had chops, and I knew you could play bass, and it was kind of like, well, at the time, it was like, that was a long time ago, right?
It was like well over a year ago.
Yeah. But then I guess, like, I don't remember how it came together, but it was in the back of my head. It was like, oh, gotta go with somebody who's, you know, it's like likes the music and likes the project. So we weren't gonna like, I tried putting like messages out and stuff and asking people, but some people were like, didn't have the commitment, or it was like, I needed somebody that like wanted to be in the band and was a fan and a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a tough find.
Yeah.
All three of those.
Yeah. Well, we got it.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect.
And you guys have a new song. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about that? Tell us a little bit about it.
Ooh, well, it's called The Whistleblower,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be out January 12th. We wrote this one a little bit ago, and then we recorded it. It was your first recording with us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first finished recording.
Yeah.
we've done.
And we recorded it ourselves in our rehearsal space. We wanted to get away from the studio and the pressure of having like one day to do a bunch of songs. We tried it and it didn't really work out, so we just did it all ourselves. And then we sent it off to a mixing engineer, and it sounds amazing. Like, I'm so proud of this song. It's very exciting.
Yeah, no, I think it's like a perfect snippet of like our band. Gives you the perfect idea. If you've never heard one of our songs, you hear this one and it's exactly what our band is. front to
Yeah,
back.
it's very raw. It's got like, it's not overproduced, and it feels like you're watching us play live. And I love this
Nice.
song. Yeah.
I love you guys playing live. How, like, so last time I talked to you was, oh my gosh, probably a couple years ago now, to be honest. Now, when I first got introduced to your band, it was the one single out, and I'm gonna be real, Jack sent me the link to your graduation show. So I watched your graduation show.
Oh, damn. That's humble, right? Yeah.
And that's how I found out about you.
Mhm.
So from that moment to like here, like how has that journey been for you?
It's been great. I mean, I watch that show now, and it's like, it feels like it was ages ago, and we've come so far as a band, and it's just I've met so many cool people in the scene, and like I feel like we've gotten a lot more comfortable on stage too, and we're gelling a lot, especially like me and Jack. We've known each other since grade 5, and we've been playing together all our lives, and it's just like it feels like such an accomplishment watching those videos and seeing where we are now. It's really nice.
So being where you are now, what's your favorite venue to play at?
In Toronto, I would say the Bovine.
Yeah, that kind of feels like our home turf kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There've been a lot of other good ones too, like both in Toronto and other cities, but it's the most, I would say, like comfortable feeling, just the vibe, the familiarity. The Bovine is kind of like our home, unofficial home turf.
Yeah.
And what would be the spot in Toronto that you're like, if we got to play here, that would be sweet?
The Rogers Center.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I mean, honestly, like, I would love to play at the Danforth, because I've been to so many cool shows there. But I recently went to History too, and that's a great venue. But yeah, either, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I will manifest us play at the Danforth. That's what I'll try.
That would be cool.
Well, now you put it
Sure.
out there in the universe.
Yeah. So if anybody's watching and you need a band to open for you.
So you guys also recently put out a pretty big announcement. Why don't you tell me, like, how did that transpire? Like, how did you guys get in contact with the label and all that stuff? Like, what was that experience for you guys?
It was so King Pizza Records is like they're independent from Brooklyn, I think. They're based in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been a fan of like their artists, especially Team Mortgage. They're huge and they have such a cool sound. And when we were doing Whistleblower, I wanted to find a mixing engineer that could get the vibe a little bit. So I contacted the guy, Jeremy, who does all the Team Mortgage songs. And then he nailed it. It was a one take. And he said that, oh, when are you guys going to release this? What's your plan? And I asked him, I kind of want to try doing this one with a label because maybe we need that extra support. And he said, oh, you should reach out to my friends at King Pizza Records. And I sent him an email, and then we met on Zoom. And then now we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty fast. Like, it was.
We talked to him and got along pretty well. We had like fairly similar ideas about like how to do the release and everything, so we thought it was a pretty good fit for what we were looking for. And the fact that it's like a smaller independent label still gives us like a bit of freedom without being super, like constricted on our own freedoms, what to do with the release and everything. So
Yeah, because I know especially for you, Pedro, it was very important for you to have like some semblance of like control over your music and like, ownership.
Yeah, it's huge. And I mean, we write like so many weird songs that are like, if you listen to like Stuck in the Desert, that one is a song that doesn't have a chorus or a verse or anything. It's just kind of like one song. It doesn't really follow the rules of like traditional songwriting. So we wanted to just kind of find a label that will let us do our thing.
Who's like the desert influence in the band?
I think I don't know. I love like.
Well, that was already like the vibe that I enjoyed when I started seeing you guys, and then I feel like now we've just gone full hands like all in on the desert psychedelic vibe while keeping the punk side of it as well. So that's like when we're going to write new stuff, and even when we're playing our current stuff live, we try to go all out on the desert vibe for sure. That's where we want to go.
Who influenced that? Like what bands?
My favorite band, Queens of the Stone Age. Like,
there you go.
Sure. You know, like I'm obsessed. I went through like all COVID just watching like religiously guitar tone videos on how to get that Josh Homme tone, and then I went deep into like that niche. And then there's also this band, I think it inspires Jack, is Wine Lips from Toronto. They're great. They're playing at Leeds Palace, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love those bands. And then you bring like so much. Like, you bring that metal too.
Yeah, because I have a lot more metal interest as well, and so I bring some heavier ideas to the band as well through that. And I also really enjoy more psychedelic music as well, so it was like a perfect fit. All of our ideas really mesh nicely when we're writing new stuff or when I was learning the parts for the existing stuff. It was very easy to not only get the vibe of the song, but like spin it in my own little way as well. That I think perfectly fits with our vibe as the psychedelic desert punk still everything.
And we're writing a lot like now. We just will make up songs in our jam space, and it's coming together like so naturally, and I love it.
Amazing. So other than, you know, all this new stuff that's going on, what else is going on for you guys? You guys got shows coming up, got your EP release. What else are we expecting from you guys?
Just a lot.
We're planning to have some more releases as well, some
Mhm.
intermittent releases of different, we have some other different ideas. We do have other songs as well that we are recording, in the middle of recording, so we're hoping to have those release in the new year as well, not too long after the newest single. And yeah, we're still playing shows all the time. Our next show is November 25th, I think.
Yeah.
Handlebar. That'll be
Nice.
our next show.
I've never been there.
Handlebar?
Nope.
You ever been?
No, I've been, but never like played.
So never play, yeah.
I was gonna say it's an interesting time on like 3 Dark and Stormies, maybe 4, and you get up there and you're like, okay,
Yeah, I got
it's
it.
about to get intimate.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room, pal.
Well, and then we have our release show for the single is going to be on January 13th, the day after the single comes out. That's going to be at the Bovine as well. So we're excited for that. We have some pretty big plans for that one.
Are they
Yeah.
secret plans? Do you guys know about any?
I don't know. We have it's still up in the air exactly what's
Okay.
going to happen. So we'll wait and see what's going to happen for sure on that one.
We're-
But
Stay tuned.
We're trying to make it like very.
we're trying to make a
like,
memorable show.
Yeah.
for sure,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to make it as epic as we can.
Intrigued.
Yes, good.
Alright, so, because it's my favorite question to ask everybody at any point in time, because this is a question that changes all the fucking time. What is your most memorable band story, whether it be behind the scenes or your touring, any of that? Like, what is just a funny little anecdote that you guys want to share?
Oh man. I mean, there's been a lot already.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we went on a road trip to Ottawa and Montreal, and that had 10 funny stories in it. I mean, that was just such an amazing weekend that we had. And we went with Wednesday Bender as well, so we got to spend the whole weekend
That must have been a
hanging out
great
with those
weekend.
guys.
Yeah.
It was a really fun weekend.
Yeah.
Just hanging out. That's one of the most memorable things that's happened so far for me, I would say, for sure.
I think like the first one that came to my mind was when we were playing in London, and we
yes.
pulled. It was like one of those summer storms, which is pouring. We had to load all our gear, and we were just drenched going in the venue. And then I didn't bring a change of clothes, so I was just so. It was yeah, stuff like that is funny.
Yeah.
I love it.
We can always find, even if a show doesn't go over well, or we make a mistake here or there in the songs, there's always something that we're gonna find that was like enjoyable from the show, whether it was something funny that happened or someone that we met that was made the trip worth it or whatever. But yeah, there's been a lot of good memories already.
Yeah. And you guys have been really good at just like getting out there and meeting people and like building a community within your band and like your people. Like, is that something that you set out to do, or is that just natural for you guys?
I mean, I love going to shows and just hanging out and meeting as many people as I can. But it's definitely like important to be involved, and because then you start to make friends, and that's what music's all about, just meeting new people and having those connections. So I don't really like say I'm gonna go out. I have to go out this amount. I just do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you go to shows too, like
Yeah, well, I mean, it's harder now with it like schedule wise, just everything getting so busy. But I mean, that's what I was doing all last year. Even that's how I got into the scene, is just from going to shows. So I definitely love going to just see bands, even when we're at shows that we're playing, just, you know, seeing the other bands that we're playing with, talking to them, picking their brains on the show and how things are going with them, and meeting all the new people. It's great. I love it. I mean, it's what I live for.
Yeah.
So if you guys could give somebody just entering the scene a piece of advice, what would it be?
Huh.
For me, I would say definitely like, you know, life can be busy and everything with your job and personal stuff and whatever, but if you go all in as much as you can with the music and like giving everything you can to the scene, like it's definitely a payoff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't half-ass it.
Yeah.
Definitely try to put it, if you're trying to get into the scene, put all of your free time into it as much as you can spare without like deteriorating your mental health kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll pay off in some degree.
I would say like networking and just meeting people. You have to do it. Like you have to support other people if you expect people to support you, and have fun. I mean, it's
Yeah.
we're all just playing music, hanging out. So yeah, meet people and have fun.
Speaking of supporting other bands, what can you guys give me like one band that each of you are listening to that like maybe you played with, or like
Right
Or
now,
recently?
I'm listening to the new. We haven't played with them, but we've met them in Brantford Static Safari. No, we played.
Yeah,
with
we
them.
did play with them
Yeah.
twice.
No. But I was gonna say Sun Junkies.
Oh,
They just
yeah,
released
yeah,
an EP Friday, so today.
They're a fun show.
Yeah, I haven't seen them live yet, but they're
I've
playing
seen
at the
them
Horseshoe.
live. They're really fun.
I'm listening to that album they put out.
Right. Yeah, we did meet them there. That's right. There was a few of them there that night. Yeah, they're good though.
Yeah. So much talent in Toronto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So before we wrap up, I'm gonna give you guys the floor to just like promote yourselves, tell people where to find your music and when to find your music and all the good things.
Yeah, well, Black Budget is our band. That was weird. Black Budget is our band. Our band is
We
Black
are
Budget.
Black Budget.
Spotify, I guess all Apple Music, Bandcamp Fridays. We have a new single coming out January 12th called Whistleblower, and we're on Instagram, Facebook, what else? That's it.
I think that's it. For
Yeah, TikTok.
TikTok.
We're
true.
trying.
That's
We're
true.
trying. But yeah, mostly on Instagram. That's where we're most active.
Yeah, that's where we're putting out all the good stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. I've loved seeing you guys like just develop and grow, especially you, Pedro, because like we've known each other for so long now.
Yeah.
Right? Like I watched your guys' little graduation video. Like it was amazing. And it's been such a joy for me specifically to just like watch you guys and like being one of the first people who booked you guys, I'm so honored just to be like a part of it in any sense,
Yeah. Thank you. And like that, I remember that first show. I think you were the first one to book us, other than like the graduation.
Yeah.
At the Hard Luck, and we had to all be sitting down. And I remember
Yeah.
it was like the table, and that was like.
And the drums started like
The drums started moving up slightly because Jack just hits them so hard, and
the other Jack at the
Yeah.
time had to sit in front of the drum and play the
he had to
bass.
put his foot in front of the kick, and it was amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm just so proud of you guys. I'm so honored to be like at all part of the journey. Like you guys, Lucid and Wednesday Bender, like I call you all my little baby bands because I'm like you guys are like my loves, and I'm just so excited to see you guys grow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for doing this with me.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much.
Awesome.